What do blind people see when they take drugs like shrooms or acid? I'm not blind, but I am colorblind. I can in fact trip colors I can't normally see. Heavily influenced my art when I used to paint. Edit. I'm trying to get to everyone's questions, but my inbox seems to have unexpectedly exploded. http imgur.com/01c1h. More edits to answer some common questions. The first time I experienced this, I was so struck by the sheer beauty. I cried. I cannot necessarily be totally sure that I was successful in recreating them, since once put into pigment form they may look correct to me, but different to someone of normal color vision. My girlfriend at the time helped me. I would do my best to describe what I saw, and she would advise me on attempting to recreate it. Other times, I did not try to recreate what I saw, but used to ideas that it gave me to paint other things. It's not like I'm seeing colors that didn't exist to be before, like OMG I just discovered yellow. Marizo that I could see more colors. Yellow becomes canary, lemon, electric, and the colors very clearly differentiate from each other and interact in interesting ways. I love to paint while I was tripping, or at least make some notes. Also for painting when not tripping, I used a lot of very bright colors, as those were much easier for me to see. Also, with the help of my girlfriend at the time, who was an artist, she also did some psychedelics, so was pretty good at deciphering what I was attempting to describe. Other times, I would get visions and use these as a basis to create a painting. Regardless of it matched. It's awesome to hear about so many other people's similar experiences. And thank you for the kind words about the art. This is possibly the greatest question I've seen asked on Reddit. Okay, here is the deal. Depending on type of blindness, tell me what you see behind you. Don't turn around. Look forward. But tell me, what do you see behind you? Is it black? Just darkness? Or can you not describe it? Because you don't see anything. Not even blackness. There isn't a sensory perception at all. This is how it is for blindness. Types of blindness where person never had vision. If the person lost their eyesight, LSD may light up those parts of the brain again because of synesthesia. However, if the person was blind at birth, the area in the brain that would interpret vision has been reprogrammed for something else. There isn't anything that can make them see something because they don't have the capability of perceiving it that way. Just as if you took LSD, would you suddenly gain the ability to echolocate? No, you wouldn't. Even though you have the organs for it, you don't have the brain function for it. Now some blind people do develop this over time. It isn't some sort of miracle drug. The only reason it is a visual drug is because it mixes up the senses so that you see what you hear or feel. But if you don't have vision as a sense, that won't happen. However, your other senses will still mix together. Synesthesia. Edit. I added the H to echo. Happy now. I am not changing that though. You are just going to have to get over it. Upvoted for visibility. Just because he doesn't have a serious tag doesn't mean everyone has to post fake stories. We get it. You love karma. I feel this is a very good question and it's being spoiled. Sorry for the butthurt and bad grammar, guys. I don't know about seeing, but I imagine they hear some crazy shit. Never tried mushrooms, but somewhat relevant. I'm visually impaired. Zero vision in right eye and about 20% vision in my left eye due to multiple sclerosis. When I smoke weed it does help my left eye and allow me to see a little more clearly. When I close my eyes I also get great visuals and a very vivid imagination. It'd be extremely interesting to try mushrooms one day, but I'm too afraid of having a bad trip. If I ever do, be sure to look out for my AMA. Close bracket. I'd imagine it would be a lot like what you see while tripping with your eyes closed. My boyfriend is totally blind from birth and regularly experiments with psychedelics. One time we both dropped acid. He didn't seem to really see anything, but he was definitely tripping out. A bit of a note though. Actually, when I was on it I didn't really see anything odd outside of patterns. Although I did feel like I was turning into a melting candle of a unicorn for a short period. There was also a point where my vision just cut out and I couldn't understand anything I was seeing. I was aware that photons were hitting my eyes but I couldn't see anything. I've taken a few psychedelics myself and I'm not really sure where people get the seeing things stereotype because that's never happened to me and I do have vision. This is the best question ever asked. JJDDJ. Since drugs like LSD mix your senses with each other, my guess is they'll see the sounds they hear and taste the things they touch. Perhaps you are specifically interested in the visual experience. But if you're assuming that the main or essential feature of a hallucinogenic experience is that you see things that aren't there, and therefore blind people would be unaffected, you would be mistaken. You generally don't just think normally but see weird things. You think differently. You employ and filter with different concepts. Notice things you would otherwise ignore and ignore things you would otherwise notice. Your sense of what caused what observed what, or what intended what can be altered. You may experience loss of selfhood. All of this can naturally be experienced without sight. It also happens that some funky visual phenomena may accompany the experience. But I don't believe they are generally regarded as an essential feature. Actually know the answer to this. If you were born blind you don't, but if you became blind you see stuff. I wish I could see answers to this question, but I highly doubt anyone who's blinder, let alone trips, is browsing Reddit. Maybe they just see their own imaginations, which could be f-king creepy. Never done acid, but I have done the mushrooms. Vines started growing down the wall. A waterfall appeared. I got into an argument with a moon and I went on a safari trip in my basement. The next day I found a plastic crab in the butter compartment of my refrigerator. I can't tell you what blind people see, but I can tell you. I see some crazy shit. When you've taken too little. Nothing really. When you've taken a good amount. It's like a wave of octagonal pixels with dancing crystal colors strewn about your eye holes. When you've done quite a bit you can see your best friend melt into a grassy hillside. Or two trampolines wearing fake noses angrily walking to their tent. The Dark Knight. Acid is very mild. Try ayahuasca. I saw the most beautiful things my brain showed me. There was a AMA here a while ago. http www reddit.com Ariyama comments CPPDF Iyama blind person from birth who has used. Basically everything you could hope to ask is covered in it. Is ego death the same thing some people experience in a sensory deprivation chamber? On mushrooms you notice the dark edges and shadows on things. Great f-king question. A fine discussion of this 2 months ago. http www.reddit.com AskReddit comments /2rwhjb blind people of Reddit who have tried. If the blindness is due to ocular defect, the optic nerve can still produce visuals, says. In this case, solely. If the optic nerve is gone, perhaps no visuals at all. They see the same thing they saw the last time someone asked this question. If they're blind because of a problem with the eyes not being able to process and send information correctly, then I imagine they would see mental pictures or something. If the blindness is because of something wrong with the occipital lobe, where the brain actually processes visual imagery, then I'd guess they would see nothing because the brain isn't capable of producing images. This is all just guessing based off of a couple cognitive physiological psych classes though. 1,000. Nothing. When people are in a room without lighting, like torture cells or solitary confinement, one of the psychological components are the fact that there isn't anything to focus on. So the subject starts to lose their bearings. While sitting in complete darkness. I hear when your brain stops getting in that visual tethering. Your brain starts to create hallucinations because it doesn't have that visual input to anchor down the images being processed, so your brain starts going haywire. I imagine it's something like that. More of psychological images. And not visual ones. Born blind equals they would see nothing but would have hallucinations involving their other senses. Blind after their sight developed equals they would have an experience much like a sighted person with their eyes closed. People born blind have no sight centers in their brains and therefore have no concept of vision, including illogical hallucinations. Semi-related. If you don't have 20/20 vision and you're tripping and hallucinating, take off your glasses. Is your hallucination blurry or clear? 50 Shades of Grey. Have you ever done a hallucinogen and closed your eyes for long periods of time? I imagine it being pretty similar. We colorblind see color. Their eyes don't work. I suppose it depends where the damage to the blind person's eye is. Because if the neurons are intact and are firing, they could potentially see sparks or something. But more than likely with most blind people, neurons aren't working, so they wouldn't see anything. This has got to be the most brilliant question I've ever heard of on Reddit. This AskReddit question. For probably the 50th time. Upvote for visibility. Our actions. They don't see anything. They are still blind. It is all hallucination. A caller to the Stern Show a few years back described it as liquid darkness. Someone post the list of what do blind people see when blank. We are limited only by our imagination. How colorblind are you? Good question. I have known 4 gay people who are deaf but never known a blind gay person. Common. I know this isn't the first time this was asked,